Well, hello. It is Dave with Dave Life Adventures. Wanted to post a video and show you of a cool upgrade I did today. Now, I will go ahead and say, just ignore the mess in the van. I am just now wrapping up the project and have not taken time to clean up, so you'll see things everywhere. But you may know on the 2025 Tiffin GH1, and I believe it's also the case on the 23s and the 26s as well, you have a light switch that when turned on, and let me see if I can get my camera pointing to the garage area back here. When I turn the switch on, you see that there's RGB lighting that turns on in the garage on both sides, as well as these strips that are close to the flooring around the adventure bar in my case. And you turn it off, the lights go back. Now, if you use this feature, you may be scratching your head going, wait a second, you just turned the switch on and it was blue. Mine is red, and I haven't been able to figure out how to change the color on startup or when I turn it on. Well, that has driven me crazy as well, and today I have solved that. Not only have I solved that problem, but we got a lot of other cool features that is now possible with this. So what did I do? So first of all, I posted something earlier about the fuses that are down here for the house side down here, that the labels on the panel or the inside of the panel for the fuses, they're not correct probably. So don't trust that blindly. I found out that according to this, number 13 should be RGB lighting, but in fact it was number 7 on the fuse panel. It was still a 10 amp fuse, but I had to make sure that was the correct one feeding it. Also, that fuse is always hot. So this, your controller is really getting power the whole time. And when you turn the switch on, it actually is switching the lighting side of the controller, not the power to the controller, so to speak, directly. Just that is switched. I could not completely confirm this, but my guess is the switch is on the other side of this fuse down here, because I also found out that fuse number 7 was tied to the sea level. Most likely they are sharing ground. This is unfortunately typical in RV builds, trying to maximize space and be optimized and all this. So you may see weird behavior, like for instance, I pulled out fuse number 7, it indeed turned off the lights, but then on the sea level it showed a short. Well, the sea level is not super intelligent. It's actually an open, but it perceives that as a problem with the wiring that goes to it. Now, I didn't actually have a short. I put the fuse back in, sea level went back to its normal state. So just be aware that things aren't always as they seem. It's not necessarily a one-to-one fuse relationship with a device. So what did I do? Under the adventure bar, there is a unit that in my case was on the left wall in a very hard to reach place behind the Servo GX, under a white, what appears to be a switching distribution panel. But this is the ITC controller that's utilized. You can utilize your VersiControl app to control the RGB. So you'll see on the left is a power coming in, red, a ground coming in. This is your input side, and this is your output side. Over here we have 5 wires. The red white is the positive voltage that passes through and goes to your lighting. The white black one, you'll see that each black actually has a kind of a color strip on it. My camera's not showing this very well, but yeah, there's the white. That's for an RGBW, which is white, system. In this case, that just went to a butt connector that did not connect to anything else. So white is not used in this particular lighting setup. But these three here have colors on the back. There's a red one, a green one, and a blue one here. So I ended up, once I proved how the wiring was working, I went ahead and shut off power to the van and clipped these lines. And we went with a new, this is WLED controller. It is based off an ESP32 processor. There's tons of these out there, so really be careful with which one you get. I'm going to kind of get into the model there. It's LG-GL-C-211WL. Now, all of them look almost the same, and I'll show you the controller in just a minute, but you need to be very careful which one you buy and where you're using it. Depending on the lighting that you have, this is an RGB system that uses what's called PWM power, and it is not addressable lighting. So that's fancy to say that these, there's a lot of different kind of lighting strips, LED lighting strips out there, and these are older style. They're just straight RGB, solid color lighting. In other words, you can't change the color along the path of the strips that are under here. It's one color all along. Now you'll see that with this WLED setup, you can do effects and things like that, fade ins, fade out, transitioning between colors and all kinds of cool stuff. But let's go down here in the adventure bar and let me see if I can get myself situated on the floor down here. All right. So I have removed the drawer here. Kind of have a mess here right now, but I'll show you where the ITC controller was back here. If I can get my finger in here. So you'll see there's a white kind of distribution block here. By the way, this black one here is for your aqua hot. The white over here is some sort of lighting switch controller or distribution panel. I'm not quite sure. It looks like it has a circuit board in it, so it's probably something proprietary that Tiffin did to be able to control all the lighting and so forth. That is your Servo GX. And the ITC controller was mounted right under that white block there. So very hard to get to and try to discern, kind of what wiring was going to it. I mean, like I'm reaching almost all the way with my arm now with the phone here. But here is the new controller. And I'll see if I can finagle this with my other hand. But you've got these nice lever type clamps. I'm not sure I understand. And on one end you'll see the power coming in, the red and then the black. So that's the input side down there. This is the output side over here. So starting from the top, you've got voltage. That is the white red that was on the, I just clipped those lines, stripped off about 1/4 of an inch, put them into the circular tube, pushed them in all the way and clamped these down. So the top is your voltage. The GPIO 19 is your white, I believe. And notice, no, I'm sorry, that is not the white. Sorry, that is the, it appears to be red. So that's the black red wire. This one is the black green wire. So that is GPIO 18. GPIO 17 is your black blue. And then I went ahead and put the black white into the GPIO 16. And this is what I meant by the butt connector being on the end. That is not connected to anything. Everything else was already butt connected into, these are butt connectors here where they're crimped on each side, and pretty solid connections. But it gets a little complicated after this, because you'll see these, generally speaking, in your van, the yellow wiring represents power. There may be some exceptions to that rule, but in this case, you'll see these go down into this junction here, and then those split off. Those are splitting off to the various strips. So in the adventure bar setup, there are 4 lighting strips. There's one on the front of the adventure bar, one on the side of the adventure bar, one on the left side of the garage, one on the right side of the garage. So there's 4 strips. So you will actually see 4 pairs, or excuse me, 4 wires for each color that have been connected together somehow under that shrink wrap and distributed out. So hopefully that demystifies it for everyone. But one of the things you can do with the WLED controller is that by default, it has what's called an access point. So whenever you power it up for the first time, you can go into your phone's Wi-Fi networks, and you'll see something like WLED-AP for access point. So you can connect to that device, and it will show a page where you can configure this device. So what I did just to start out with is I set up a preset in the WLED configuration there. And that preset was the blue solid light at a particular color that I wanted. I wanted that to be my default. And I went into settings and made sure that it used preset number 1 for when it boots up to default to that. So now we have this wonderful experience. When we turn on the switch, it'll go to your preset. There's a lot of stuff that you can do in the WLED app. By the way, I'm mentioning an app. You can go either through the browser, connecting to the access point if you want to, or you can actually set up the controller to connect to your Wi-Fi. So in my case, I always have my Starlink on, and let's see if I can get up off the floor here. I always have my Starlink on. So I wanted to connect to my Wi-Fi and be able to access it through a mobile app called WLED Native. And that app, I can probably do another video at some point to show a little bit of walkthrough on how that works. And that now, whenever I power this switch on up here, then it works just like the other controller. It's actually off until you turn this on, and then it takes 1 or 2 seconds, and then the light comes on. At that point, I can go into the WLED Native app, and I can control the lights. So there's all sorts of effects and things like that you can do. Fade ins, fade outs, rainbow kind of experience, fading in and out between colors, strobes. You can have it detect music. It actually has a mic built into that controller where it detects the music and kind of makes the lights follow the pulsation of the beats. So that's kind of cool. All sorts of stuff you can do. The other thing I'll mention before I get off the video is these are on Amazon. I'll try to put the link below to the controller if you want to try to do this yourself. And hopefully now that you know how the circuit works, you can feel more comfortable with powering off the master cutoff switch and just cutting these lines and wiring them in accordingly the way I showed. You may be asking, how am I going to affix my controller? I'm definitely not putting it back in that same spot that this one was in. This was much heavier, by the way. It was actually only being held on by these 2 screws right here. So it was upside down, kind of like this. and these two right here were screwed into the wood wall on this side pretty tightly, but there was definitely still room for vibration, so I really didn't like that. So I think what I'm going to end up doing is there's a nice platform on top of the breaker box that is in there, and that's plastic. So I'm going to use the VHB tape that actually came with the controller, and I'm going to clean off that surface on the top, and I'm going to put the controller right on top. That way it'll be way more serviceable and easy to access, because there are like a reset button on it and things like that. So if anything ever goes awry, I'll have quick access to it. The other thing that I didn't mention is you can also purchase a WLED remote control. And this is a remote control that has an awareness of, like, for instance, if in your app, the WLED app, native app, if you set up different presets, you can access those presets from the remote, so that way you don't have to pull up your phone and do that. Of course you can from your phone, but this might be nice and convenient as well. And for me, I'm actually going to add some more WLED controllers for more modern addressable lighting. Just got to kind of figure out where I'm going to put the lighting, but I figured it would come in handy for the overall lighting system in the end. So hopefully this helps you guys, and feel free to ping me with any questions that you might have, or you know, if you have ideas on how this could be done better, let me know. I don't think the way I've done it is necessarily perfect. I've actually struggled with this for several days just because of having to reverse engineer the wiring in there to prove to myself how this actually worked, because it was not clear. I'll go ahead and admit this, but for, I guess, about a day, I seriously thought that black box that I showed you that was the AquaHot, somehow related to the AquaHot, I actually thought that was the controller. I could not figure out for the life of me how that wiring corresponded to an RGB lighting system. Well, it doesn't. So I feel a little embarrassed, but, you know, just to be a little human here and say, you know, this is not all easy and straightforward for me. I have to kind of figure things out, but I do not cut wires until I know 100% what they do and where they're going and what ramifications there might be for especially doing a swap like this, because this is a fundamentally different kind of controller with a lot more features, but I needed to match that with the specs for this one and how it works. So that's kind of how I ended up at this spot. But I hope you guys enjoy this, and let me know if you end up doing this with your van, and hopefully you enjoy it as much as I think I am going to enjoy it. So I'm so excited, because when I turn on this switch now, I get the default color that I want, or the default effect that I want. So for right now, that is blue, because it goes nicely with my blue and habit mattes, and it just looks fantastic at night. I'll give you guys a quick tease as well. I'll do another video on this, but check this out. I now have new puck lights that are dimmable. So I just hold that and it's dimmable, and then that's a night light kind of experience. Aren't those cool? And that's a pretty easy upgrade as well, and I'll do a separate video on that. Take care, everybody. Have a great day.